This video will go over how to enter lithology data in FUDSChem. This data is typically included in a boring log. Go to Tools, Data Submission. Choose the correct project and event and select lithology as our data type. Note that you have the option to create a file or upload file. Today we will create a file. For an example of uploading data in a CSV format, refer to our Loading Locations to FUDSChem via Flat File tutorial. This video is linked in the description. Click Create a File. Our hard copy diagram confirms that this is well CRB-MW-466S. We'll select it in the Location ID dropdown. Locations in this dropdown have already been approved in FUDSChem. If you do not see the location you need in the dropdown, uncheck the Event Loc IDs Only box. We'll start with this first interval. On the boring log, we can see that it extends from 0 feet down to 10 feet below ground surface, so we'll enter 0 for the beginning depth and 10 for the ending depth. The log date is listed at the top of our boring log. It's August 3rd, 2016. The logging company is Environmental Synectics. Note, only the first 10 items are shown in the dropdown. We can expand the dropdown to show more items by clicking at the bottom where it says items 1 through 10 out of the total number of items. Clicking here shows the next 10 items. Alternatively, we can type E into the box to make the list jump to that letter and see items that are further down in the list. Lithology code is the lithologic description of the layer. In the case of something like silty sand, sand is the primary component and the primary component is always listed first. We'll choose SDSL for sand and silt. Note that if we chose SLSD, silted sand, this would indicate sandy silt, since the primary component always comes first. The Astm soil classification code is SM. If the Astm code is not written on your boring log, you may need to determine from the description which Astm code would be appropriate to select. If a label has an asterisk next to it, that means it is a required field. Otherwise, it is optional. Hydrostratigraphic unit and stratigraphic unit are both optional, and in this case, we will leave them blank. For the description, we will copy from the boring log exactly, using abbreviations. Click Save. The location ID, log date, and logging company will remain the same for all the intervals on this boring log. To save ourselves some effort, we will click Copy up at the top and update this copy to reflect the details of our second interval. This avoids having to enter the static information over and over again. As we move on to the second interval, note that each interval should connect to the next. For example, our first interval extends from 0 to 10 feet below ground surface. If the second interval started at 11 instead of 10, there would be a gap from 10 to 11 feet below ground surface that was not accounted for. If an interval was not sampled and there is no lithological description for it, the interval should be entered with an Astm code of NSNR, which stands for No Sample or No Recovery Obtained. The remarks should specify what occurred. In this case, there is no gap. The second interval goes from 10 feet to 30 feet, so we'll update the beginning depth to 10 feet and the end depth to 30 feet. This second interval is also silty sand, like the first interval. The lithology code will remain the same. The Astm code is also the same. We will update the description to match the second interval. Click Save. We would continue copying, updating, and saving until we had entered all the subsequent intervals. For the sake of time, we will only enter these two intervals for this video. Note that the final interval end depth should match the depth listed in the location definition file. We go over how to enter this data in our Loading Locations to FUDSChem tutorial videos. This video is linked in the description. Additionally, while we could enter information for another boring into the same file, it can be simpler to give each boring its own file instead. With that in mind, click Save and close the interface. Click Rename. We'll name this file Training Lithology, but for your file, you can give it any name that will make it easy to identify later. Next, we will click the checkbox and choose Screen to make sure there are no errors flagged by the system. If there were errors, we would be able to click on the number of errors to view an error report. We would make any necessary updates, then save and screen the file again. Since there are 0 errors, we will click Certify to send this file into the queue for review. Once you have certified the file, send an email to your review point of contact and ask them to review and approve the file. Depending on your district, this may be someone at the core or someone at Synectics. The person who is reviewing the file will follow the process outlined in our Lithology review video. This video is linked in the description. Don't forget to subscribe to the FUDSChem YouTube channel for more tutorial videos. All of the tutorials and playlists mentioned during this video are linked in the description below. Lastly, if you have questions or comments, feel free to contact us at fuds.support@synectics.net. Thank you.